So we are in Act 3, Scene 2. And remember that Macbeth is planning on murdering his best friend, Banquo, as well as Banquo's son, Fleance. So in that way, the witch's predictions cannot come true for Banquo's children, because Macbeth now wants his own lineage rather than it being Banquo's kids that will have a dynasty. And so in this scene, we get to find out whether or not he has let Lady Macbeth know about this, or is he keeping secrets? So let's go ahead and begin.
Act 3, Scene 2. Lady Macbeth enters with a servant.
Is Banquo gone from court?
Aye, madam, but returns again tonight.
Say to the king I would attend his leisure for a few words.
Madam, I will.
The servant leaves.
Naught's had, all spent, where our desire is got without content. 'Tis safer to be that which we destroy than by destruction dwell in doubtful joy.
I love that. She has these two couplets that go along with that within her first few lines there. And that means that the last two words, so it goes A, B, B. The last two words go in rhyme. So we have spent and content and then destroy and joy. I love it when he does that. Lady Macbeth, after she's alone, she's now reflecting and she says that she has absolutely everything that she's ever wanted, but she's not happy. I mean, the prophecy never did say that Macbeth would be happy, not at all, or Lady Macbeth. And then she says that she envies Duncan, but Duncan's dead. Why is she going to envy a dead person? Not exactly. It's because Duncan doesn't have anything else to worry about, whereas she has everything to worry about now. I don't know. That doesn't sound healthy, Lady Macbeth. It really doesn't. So now Macbeth is going to enter.
Macbeth enters, lost in thought.
How now, my lord? Why do you keep alone? Of sorriest fancies your companions making, using those thoughts which should indeed have died with them they think on. Things without all remedy should be without regard. What's done is done.
So remember, we were like, all right, maybe the murder of Duncan is going to bring them even closer together. Remember at the beginning of the play, we found out that they had a very good marriage. So has the death of Duncan, the murder of Duncan, brought them closer together, or has it torn them apart? When she says, "My lord, why do you keep alone? Of sorriest fancies your companions making." She's feeling like she's lost her husband because he prefers to be alone with his thoughts. So this murder has torn them apart, even though they planned it together. And she's like, what's done is done. It's time to move on. So, I mean, even though they committed this atrocious crime and got away with it, it's destroyed them as a couple. So that's quite ironic right there. Quite ironic. So let's see what Macbeth has to say.
We have scorched the snake, not killed it. She'll close and be herself, whilst our poor Malice remains in danger of her former tooth. But let the frame of things disjoint. Both the worlds suffer ere we will eat our meal in fear, and sleep in the affliction of these terrible dreams that shake us nightly. Better be with the dead, whom we to gain our peace have sent to peace, than on the torture of the mind to lie in restless ecstasy. Duncan is in his grave. After life's fitful fever he sleeps well. Treason has done his worst. Nor steel, nor poison, malice domestic, foreign levy, nothing can touch him further.
So we have a little bit more irony here, even though they're like very separate and have become separated because of their angst, I guess. They both have the same kind of thoughts. And he says we have scorched the snake, not killed it, excuse me. So he's saying killing Duncan was just the beginning. He's already king. Who else does he have to kill? Goodness. But he's very, very threatened by Duncan's friends and his own friends. And I mean, especially if he goes and draws more attention to himself with more murder, that's not going to look good. But whose murder is he plotting? Banquos and faiences. And then he says, Duncan is in his grave. After life's fitful fever, he sleeps well. Treason has done his worst, nor steel nor poison, malice domestic, foreign levy, nothing can touch him further. And he's like, Duncan has it easy now because he's dead. Nothing else can happen to him. Nothing else can go wrong. But then he says, ere we will eat our meal in fear and sleep in the affliction of these terrible dreams that shake us nightly. So he's just like, you know what? I'm okay with the entire world suffering, so in that way I can remain in power. That's not the sign of a very good leader. And that means that he's not sleeping now, and when he does sleep, he has nightmares. So Shakespeare was really cool there. He understood how guilt and shame would go and twist dreams. And this is ultimately going to go and drive him towards paranoia as well as insanity. Question, sir? Well, what kind of irony do you guys think it would be? If it's, yeah, so he got what he wanted, but it's ultimately not going to make him all that happy. So is it the situation that's going to be the irony? Yeah, it's situational. Excellent question. All right, let's continue on.
Come on, gentle my lord, sleek o'er your rugged looks. Be bright and jovial among your guests tonight.
So shall I, love, and so I pray be you. Let your remembrance apply to Banquo. Present him eminence both with eye and tongue. Unsafe the while that we must lave our honours in these flattering streams, and make our faces vizards to our hearts, disguising what they are.
All right, so he is sounding very much like Lady Macbeth again from earlier in the play about looking innocent and happy, because remember when they were plotting to go and kill Duncan, she's like, you do not have a very good poker face. And now he's telling her to go and like control her face there. You have to look innocent, you have to look happy. And they realize that they have to be two-faced to Banquo and mask the true feelings, especially him. Now, we as the audience know that Banquo is not going to be at that feast that they're planning tonight, and that he is going to be murdered by Macbeth and with those murderers. Does Lady Macbeth know based upon this? She has no clue. So yet again, that's going and proving that they're so far apart. He's not even letting her know his plans for murder of his best friend. So that's showing how far apart they now are.
You must leave this.
Oh, full of scorpions is my mind, dear wife. Thou knowest that Banquo and his faience lives.
But in them nature's copy's not etern.
There's comfort yet. They are assailable. Then be thou jocund. Ere the bat hath flown his cloistered flight, ere to black Hecate's summons the shad-born beetle with his drowsy hums hath rung night's yawning peal, there shall be done a deed of dreadful note.
So he's now using these images of the night here. So we have the bat hath flown his cloistered flight, ere to black Hecate's summons the shard-born beetle with his drowsy hums hath wrung night's yawning peal. I mean, that's a lot of images of the night there. And then they're saying that both follow the witch cream, the witch queen. There we go, Hecate. And so he's like, something big is gonna go and happen tonight, my dear. So again, if we weren't 100% sure that Lady Macbeth doesn't know, there's our clue.
What's to be done?
Be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck, till thou applaud the deed. Come, sealing night, scarf up the tender eye of pitiful day, and with thy bloody and invisible hand cancel and tear to pieces that great bond which keeps me pale. Light thickens, and the crow makes wings to the rooky wood. Good things of day begin to droop and drowse, whiles night's black agents to their praise do rouse. Thou marvelst at my words, but hold thee still. Things bad begun make strong themselves by ill. So prithee, go with me.
So that's the end of scene 2. And at the end there, Macbeth, I love it that he calls her his dearest Chuck. That's actually a term of endearment. You know, it's like my darling, my honey. I wouldn't suggest trying to bring that one back as a term of endearment. Be like, hello, my dearest Chuck. Just, I don't think that would go over too well. I don't know. Maybe I'm old fashioned, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you enjoy being called my dearest Chuck? I don't think I would. Right. It's just kind of weird. Yeah, it's an interesting endearment there. So he is now calling for the Dark Knight to come on in, just as he did in Act 1 and Lady Macbeth did as well. So how does she not recognize, be like, hey, wait a minute, that sounds really familiar. How does she not realize that he's planning another murder now? So he is just like all about embracing his dark side at this point, even though he knows that it's pulling him away from his wife. And they are now not as close and not that power couple anymore. And I mean, it's kind of like Lady Macbeth doesn't even recognize who he is anymore. But he seriously believes that all of these endless wrongs can make things right, and that he has to continue to be evil. And also, truthfully, he digs it. He enjoys being evil. He's like, yeah, this is what I was born for. Like he feels that he's really coming into his own. Dude, that's a little scary. So now, scene 3. I hate scene 3. I'm just going to tell you this right now, because let me tell you where we're at as far as the setting. We're now outside the castle, like 3/4 of a mile away, about a mile away. And guess who is coming back from his lovely horseback ride that he was taking before the feast? Banquo. Banquo and Fleance are coming. You had a question? About the what? I'm sorry. Oh, that he has to continue to be evil in order to continue to be in power. And so no matter what, he now feels that he has to go and remove any kind of obstacle with murder. You know, like let's say that he stubs his toe, murder. Let's say that his breakfast isn't exactly the way he wants it, murder. I mean, that's a bit much, I feel, but what do I know? So scene 3, we're outside the castle. We know what's going to happen, you guys. We don't have to like it, but here we go.
Act 3, Scene 3. The woods, some way from the royal palace of Forres. The two murderers, joined by a third man, are hiding there. In the distance we see Banquo and Fleance riding.
But who did bid thee join with us?
Macbeth. He needs not our mistrust, since he delivers our offices and what we have to do to the direction just.
So remember that when Macbeth met with the murderers, there were only two. Now there's three. So Macbeth didn't trust the two murderers and also hired a third one. So in that way, it'd be 3 against 1.5, because remember, Fleance is a kid. That way they'd be able to completely overpower them and ensure that Banquo and Fleance would not survive. Now, I don't know how I would feel if I were the first and second murderer in this case. Like, I would feel like I'd been entrusted for this, and then it would be that you didn't trust me enough and you felt that you had to go and get a backup. Like, that's just not okay, but whatever. Okay, whatevs. Let's see how they handle it. I'd be a little cheesed.
Then stand with us. The west yet glimmers with some streaks of day. Now spurs the lated traveller apace to gain the timely inn, and near approaches the subject of our watch.
Hark! I hear horses.
Give us a light there, ho!
Okay. So the murderers, the first and second murderers, they're actually pretty cool with it. They're just like, oh, okay, well, you can help us murder. Welcome to the fold. You're now part of the gang. They're a lot nicer than I would be. I don't know. I'd be a little standoffish, I feel, but I don't know, whatever. So the third murderer's like, shush, I hear horses. They're coming. It's Banquo and Fleance. So they're they're far away from the castle. And in this time period, it was common to go and have the guys who are riding the horses dismount that far away, hand their horses off to the stable hands, and then to go and walk to the castle. I don't know why. Maybe to get the dust off or something like that. Maybe they didn't want any horse apples near the castle. I don't know. So, what's that? Oh, to cool down the horses. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. As you can tell, Mrs. Brown was a townie. She was not in nature at all growing up, apparently. It's true. And so this is what Banquo's doing. He sees the three murderers thinking that they're just the stable hands waiting for him to hand off the horses. So he's going to be super friendly. He's going to stop for them because he's expecting someone to go and take his horses at this point. Keep going, Banquo. Don't do it.
Then 'tis he. The rest that are within the note of expectation already are in the court.
His horses go about.
Almost a mile. But he does usually, so all men do. From hence to the palace gate, make it their walk.
Banquo and Fleance leave their horses and walk via the path to the castle. They have a flaming torch to guide their way.
A light! A light!
'Tis he. Stand to it.
It will be rain tonight.
Let it come down.
The murderers launch themselves on Banquo and Fleance. One of them strikes out the torch, throwing the scene into near darkness.
Oh, treachery! Fly, good Fleance! Fly, fly, fly! Thou mayest revenge! Oh, slave!
And Fleance runs while his father's final breath is hacked from his body.
Who did strike out the light?
Was not the way?
There's but one down. The sun is fled. We have lost best half of our affair.
Well, let's away and see how much he's done.
That's the end of scene 3. So Banquo and Fleance walk on stage there. They have a light, but the light goes out. Now, from a play perspective, the production, why does the light have to go out? Yeah, because I mean that's going to be kind of rough to go and show murders on the stage. So thankfully it is not shown. So it's pure and utter darkness. And also it's to go and have the audience's imagination take over. So that way it's even more disgusting. So Banquo's dead. His throat was cut. But what about Flans? He survived and was able to run away. Banquo's last act was to take on all 3 murderers to save his son. What a good man. In the next scene, we're going to find out how badly he was attacked. And I'm just going to tell you, it's really bad. Like, he definitely died trying to save his son. And thankfully, Flans did flee. I don't know why I kind of giggle about that. I think it's the alliteration of fly, Flans, fly, fly, fly. And then what ultimately happens to Flans? Flans fled. So that means that the premonition can still come true. Banquo's children can still become kings. And the murderers are just like, ah, crap, but we got half of it done. Let's go tell them. So, scene 4.
Act 3, Scene 4. A banquet hall in the palace. The table is set for a magnificent feast. Enter King Macbeth and his queen, with Ross, Lennox, and many lords and attendants.
You know your own degrees. Sit down. At first and last, the hearty welcome.
Thanks to your majesty.
Ourself will mingle with society and play the humble host. Our hostess keeps her state, but in best time we will require her welcome.
Pronounce it for me, sir, to all our friends. For my heart speaks they are welcome.
The lords rise and bow to Queen Macbeth. As they do so, the first murderer appears in the doorway.
See, they encounter thee with their heart's thanks. Both sides are even. Here, I'll sit in the midst.
He points to an empty stool in the group of lords.
Be large in mirth. Anon we'll drink a measure the table round.
So it is now time for the feast that is there to honor Banquo. Well, we know Banquo's not going to show up. Poor guy. So Macbeth comes on in and he's just all like, welcome to you all. I'm so happy that you could all be here. Bow to your queen. And so they do. He's like, I want you to just sit wherever you want. You know, we're all friends here. He's like, and look, there's a spot in the middle of the table. And I just want to show how I'm just one of the guys, even though like I am better than you and I am the king. But I'm going to sit with you to show how humble and kind I am, rather than in my rightful place at the head of the table. Oy. And so now he's going to go and see the murderer. And let's face it, do you think these murderers would have been like, oh, let me go get change, let me go wash up? Or are they just going to be like, oh man, we have to go and tell Macbeth that everything didn't work out? Yeah, they came directly to the castle. So this guy is covered in gore. Not too stealthy.
Macbeth sees the murderer and goes to him.
There's blood upon thy face.
'Tis Banquo's then.
'Tis better thee without than he within. Is he dispatched?
My lord, his throat is cut. That I did for him.
Thou art the best of the cutthroats. Yet he's good that did the like for Fleance. If thou didst it, thou art the nonpareil.
Most royal sir, Fleance escaped.
Then comes my fit again. I had else been perfect, whole as the marble, founded as the rock, as broad and general as the casing air, but now I am cabined, cribbed, confined, bound in to saucy doubts and fears.
But Banquo's safe.
Aye, my good lord, safe in a ditch he bides, with 20 trenched gashes on his head, the least a death to nature.
Thanks for that. There the grown serpent lies. The worm that's fled hath nature that in time will venom breed. No teeth for the present. Get thee gone. Tomorrow we'll hear ourselves again.
The murderer leaves.
Gross. So Macbeth's just like, hey, there's blood on your face. And the murderer's like, oh, that's Banquo. She's like, ugh, it looks so much better on you than in his body. That's his best friend. That's so gross. What's that? So the murderers know that they did kill Banquo, but they know that they screwed up and let Fleance go. Yeah, so and that's what he was telling them there. So when Macbeth first sees him, he thinks that they've come to say that both Banquo and Fleance are both dead. And so when the first murderer says, "My lord, his throat is cut, that I did for him," Macbeth responds with, "Ugh, I knew I could trust you, because when I looked for like who was the best throat cutter in all of Scotland, your name totally came to mind." He's like, "So I am so proud of you. You're amazing. Like, if there could be an award for best throat cutter, it would be you, first murderer." And then he's like, ugh, "Yet he's good that did the like for Fleance. If thou didst, thou art the non-pareil." So he's like, "Please tell me that you went and cut the little child's throat too." He seriously said that. Oh my gosh. Ugh. That's so gross and terrible. And then the first murderer is just like, yeah, about that. Fleance got away. Oops. So the prediction can still come true. So then he's just like, ah! And he's just like, my inner fears are imprisoning me and he has to die. But he's like, but most importantly, Banquo's dead, right? And he's like, yes, he's dead. We slicey diceyed him 20 times. That's overkill right there, you guys. 20 times he was stabbed and they cut his throat. Ugh. And they left his dead body in a ditch. And then when he says, thanks for that. So, oh, good, well, at least you got him. Good, thanks. There's the grown serpent lies. The worm that's fled hath nature that in time will venom breed. So the grown serpent, who's the grown up in for the two that were supposed to die? Banquo. Then who's the worm? Yeah, Fleance. Absolutely. You had a question? No. Ah, perfect. Perfect. But I hate that. You know, the serpent lies, the worm that's fled hath nature that in time will venom breed. So he's like, oh man, if that kid is allowed to grow up, he's going to have kids. And we can't allow that to happen. So he's like, all right, get out. I'll see you tomorrow. And now the murderer has left. So let's see what Lady Macbeth is going to say. Because all she knows is that her husband has just like all of a sudden left the party and is off talking to somebody covered in blood. Hopefully she can't see the person covered in blood, but you never know. Oops.
My royal lord, you do not give the cheer. The feast is sold that is not often vouched while 'tis a making. 'Tis given with welcome to feed were best at home. From thence the source to meat is ceremony. Meeting were bare without it.
She's like, what are you doing? We have a party. Why aren't you in there? Go. Understandable.
Sweet remembrance. Now, good digestion wait on appetite, and health on both.
May it please your highness, sit.
Here had we now our country's honour roofed were the graced person of our Banquo present.
The ghost of Banquo now appears, though only Macbeth can see him, and sits in the chair Macbeth was to sit in.
Who may I rather challenge for unkindness than pity for mischance?
His absence, sir, lays blame upon his promise. Please it your highness to grace us with your royal company.
The table's full.
Here is a place reserved, sir.
Where?
Here, my good lord.
And now Macbeth sees the ghost.
What is that moves, your highness?
Which of you have done this?
What, my lord?
Thou canst not say I did it. Never shake thy gory locks at me!
Gentlemen, rise. His highness is not well.
Sit, worthy friends. My lord is often thus, and hath been from his youth. Pray you, keep seat. The fit is momentary. Upon a thought he will again be well. If much you note him, you shall offend him and extend his passion. Feed and regard him not.
Lady Macbeth pulls Macbeth aside.
Are you a man?
So remember, Lady Macbeth has no idea what's going on. She has no idea about Banquo, no idea about the plot to also kill Flance, but she still covers for him because she loves him. And she's like, no, Thanes, just go ahead and sit. It's perfectly fine. My husband has suffered from seizures ever since he was a child. That's not a seizure, Lady Macbeth, but okay. She's like, Thanes, just ignore him. He's fine. He's fine. If you talk to him, he'll feel bad like when he comes out of this fit. And then she pulls him aside and she's like, what is wrong with you? Are you a man? So then we have that theme of gender roles coming back again.
I, and a bold one that dare look upon that which might appall the devil.
Proper stuff. This is the very painting of your fear. This is the air-drawn dagger which you said led you to Duncan. Oh, these flaws and starts, impostors to true fear, would well become a woman's story at a winter's fire, authorized by her grandam. Shame itself! Why do you make such faces? When all's done, you look but on a stool.
Prithee, see there! Behold, look, lo! How say you? Why, what care I if thou canst nod? Speak, too! If charnel houses and our graves must send those that we bury back, our monuments shall be the moors of kites.
The ghost vanishes.
So Lady Macbeth, again, has no idea about Banquo, cannot see Banquo there. And she's just like, you sound like a woman telling a ghost story around a campfire and is scaring herself. She's thinking he's hallucinating Duncan. Because remember, she has no idea about Banquo. And she's like, these hallucinations make you look guilty. Stop it. But he is still just like in his own head there. And he's just like, if bodies are just going to like rise from the grave, well, Banquo's not buried yet, but anyway, then there's no point in burying them. They might as well just leave them out in the open in order to be like eaten by birds. Well, I mean, technically, Banquo's body is just laying in a ditch, so it could be. But he's having a moment. Let's see what Lady Macbeth says in response.
What? Quite unmanned in folly?
If I stand here, I saw him.
Fie for shame.
Blood hath been shed ere now in the olden time. A humane statute purged the gentle wheel, aye, and since too. Murders have been performed too terrible for the ear. The times has been that when the brains were out, the man would die, and there an end. But now they rise again with 20 mortal murders on their crowns, and push us from our stools. This is more strange than such a murder is.
My worthy lord, your noble friends do lack you.
I do forget. Do not muse at me, my most worthy friends. I have a strange infirmity, which is nothing to those that know me. Come, love and health to all, and I'll sit down.
Probably a good idea, Macbeth. Go ahead and sit down. And so, just picture if you're a Thane right now. You can hear all of this. And you're just like trying to pretend you're at your feast. You have your food in front of you and just all like, I am not coming back here. Like, ever. This is just weird. We have the king freaking out. We have the queen berating him. They're screaming at each other. We're trying to pretend that we don't hear a thing. Awkward. And so Macbeth's just like, there was a time when the dead meant dead and gone and forever. But now they're rising up out of their graves and they're pushing him from my chair. They're taking my chair. I guess that's the biggest thing that he's upset about is he took his chair. And he's like almost confessing to this because when he says, this is more strange than such a murder is. And she's just like, be quiet. People are here besides me that can hear you. Like the Thanes. And then he's like, hi, guys. I totally forgot where I was for a minute. Hi. I was just having a minute. So I have like this weird thing where I sometimes say like completely inaccurate things. There's no dead bodies. There's no dead bodies at all. Like when you leave tonight, there won't be a dead body in the ditch. Not at all. Not at all. A toast. Love and health to all. Let me sit down now. Okay, let's eat. Macbeth, man, be cool. He's not being cool. He's not being cool.
Give me some wine. Fill full. I drink to the general joy of the table, and to our dear friend Banquo, whom we miss. Would he were here. To all, and him, we thirst, and all to all.
Our duties and the pledge.
As he raises his cup to toast them, the ghost reappears.
Avaunt and quit my sight! Let the earth hide thee. Thy bones are marrowless, thy blood is cold. Thou hast no speculation in those eyes which thou dost glare with.
Think of this, good peers, but as a thing of custom, 'tis no other. Only it spoils the pleasure of the time.
What man dare I dare? Approach thou like the rugged Russian bear, the armed rhinoceros, or the Hirson tiger. Take any shape but that, and my firm nerves shall never tremble. Or be alive again, and dare me to the desert with thy sword. If trembling I inhabit then, protest me the baby of a girl. Hence, horrible shadow! Unreal mockery! Hence!
And the ghost is gone.
Why, so being gone, I am a man again. Pray you, sit still.
You have displaced the mirth, broke the good meeting with most admired disorder.
I love that little zinger from Lady Macbeth there. So he goes back into another fit because he sees Banquo's ghost and he's just like, oh, for God's sakes. He's like, I am a fearless man. I would go and fight any creature on the face of the earth, but seeing my best friend's ghost is making me feel like a trembling little girl. He's like, just stop it. And the ghost vanishes. Guess it worked. And so then he's like, oh, okay, well, now that the ghost is gone, I'm myself again. Let's go have fun, everybody. And Lady Macbeth's just kind of like, no, you ruined this. You can't come back from this at all. You just completely ruined everything. Meal's done. Everybody hates this. They're never coming back. This is atrocious. This was bad. And Macbeth's world is completely unraveling, and he really doesn't realize that he was the only one that could see this ghost. You would think, based upon everybody else's lack of reaction, but no, he doesn't.
Can such things be and overcome us like a summer's cloud without our special wonder? You make me strange even to the disposition that I owe, when I think you can behold such sights and keep the natural ruby of your cheeks, when mine is blanched with fear.
What sights, my lord?
I pray you speak not. He grows worse and worse. Question enrages him. At once, good night. Stand not upon the order of your going, but go at once.
The lords rise.
Good night, and better health attend his majesty.
A kind good night to all.
Together, the lords leave, so that only Macbeth and his wife remain.
So he nearly confesses to killing Banquo right there. And he's like, I do not understand how you guys can just sit there super calm when you see Banquo's dead ghost sitting with us. And Ross is like, what are you talking about? And at that point, Lady Macbeth's just like, you know what? We're done. You got to go. Like, it doesn't even matter what order that you guys want to go in. Just leave now. Like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Bye. Good night. Bye, 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 bye. Macbeth, don't talk. We will talk once everybody's gone, but don't say anything anymore. And so they're all just like, feel better, Macbeth? Well, that didn't go well. Let's see how this works out.
It will have blood, they say. Blood will have blood. Stones have been known to move and trees to speak. Augurs and understood relations have by maggot-pies and choughs and rooks brought forth the secretest man of blood. What is the night?
Almost at odds with morning. Which is which?
So when he says it will have blood, they say blood will have blood. That's referring to the price for killing Duncan. And she's just like, he's just like, well, what time is it? And she's like, well, it's almost morning at this point. You ruined the entire evening. Good job, Macbeth. And so he's looking around and he's finally like calming down, and he's going to notice that there was one thing missing, besides Banquo, of course. Remember at the end of Act 1, there was one Thane who was just like, I am not going to the coronation. I think Macbeth had something to do with this. I'm going home to Fife. So anyway, I thought I heard it. Who was it? It was Macduff. So if you remember in Act 1, Duncan was the perceived enemy. Now in Act 2, it was transferred to Banquo. And now Banquo's gone and Fleance has fled. Therefore, who is now going to become the new enemy? Because he wasn't there. Macduff. Yep.
How sayest thou that Macduff denies his person at our great bidding?
Did you send to him, sir?
I heard it by the way, but I will send. There's not a one of them, but in his house I keep a servant feed. I will tomorrow, and betimes I will, to the weird sisters. More shall they speak, for now I am bent to know by the worst means the worst. For mine own good, all causes shall give way. I am in blood stepped in so far that, should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as go o'er. Strange things I have in head that will to hand, which must be acted ere they may be scanned.
You lack the season of all natures, sleep.
Come, well to sleep. My strange and self-abuse is the initiate fear that wants hard use. We are yet but young indeed.
And that's the end of scene 4. So yes, we're correct that Macduff is going to become the newest perceived enemy. And Macbeth has already put a spy within the Macduff household. That's not creepy. And then he says that he's going to go and see the weird sisters. So he's going to go back and see the witches and ask them for more prophecies, I guess. More shall they speak, for now I am bent to know the worst means the worst. For mine own good, all causes shall give way. So he's just like, yeah, I have to know, who else is my enemy? Who else I have to get rid of? And then when he says, I am in blood, stepped in so far that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as go o'er. So he's saying that he has like this image of being in a river of blood, and he's waded out really, really far. And for him, it's going to be easier to go and wade in deeper. So to ensconce himself in more blood rather than going back to the shore, which would symbolize going back to the right path. So he's just all like, nope, I'm going to wade deeper into the blood, which means he's in too deep. He knows it and he's okay with it. So he wants to get the body count as high as possible. He's the king. He shouldn't be killing people. That's atrocious. So there's going to be a lot more murder in this book. And Lady Macbeth is just like, you need to rest. You need to kind of dial it back a little bit. You need to sleep. But remember, he can't do that anymore. And he says that. He's like, nope, I'm in too deep. I have to keep killing. And that is the end of scene 4.